Hey everyone, it's Sarah, the elder millennial.
And this is Bill, the infant boomer. Welcome to Strengths on Fire, the podcast for strengths enthusiasts who want to have fun while leveling up.
Get ready for a mix of powerful insights, unexpected stories, and plenty of laughs along the way. Hey Bill, you want to light these strengths on fire?
Sarah, let's light it up!
Mr. Bill Dipple!
Woo, Sarah Collins. Always a joy when I'm hanging out with Sarah Collins.
Isn't it so fun?
How
did we get so lucky to be able to do this for work?
I know we've talked that this just kind of fell together, but it's wonderful that it fell together. I absolutely love my Fridays, getting up, hanging out with Sarah, talking to some amazing people. We have another one today. So I just love the fact that we get knowledge from each other and other people, and we get to share it with the world. And I get to do it with one of the most amazing co-hosts I can imagine. So
I'm the lucky one, Bill. I'm the lucky one. I get to be here with you and all of your extra energy.
I'm just the right age for extra energy. I'd say
that's right.
Yeah, I would say you feed me, Sarah. You give me the energy. So that's good news. That. So
okay, I have a question for you, and I'm very curious for the answer.
I am ready. All right.
If you could live in the world of any movie or TV show for a week, where would you go and why?
For a week? I get 1 week to do it?
You get 1 week to live in the world of a TV show or a movie.
That's really good. And I have to pick one?
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's tough. Can I say Yellowstone?
You can say Yellowstone. You sure can.
I love Yellowstone.
Okay, do you just want to be in Bozeman, Montana, or do you want to be with those people?
I think that is part of the question. Is I get to live in the moment. I would love to go wrangle with the Yellowstone group and be
with Rip. Have Rip yelling at you,
hang out.
You in your place.
I need Beth to tell me that I don't belong, or get out, move on.
Something else. Right? I tell you what.
I need Casey to just smooth in and then hang out and laugh.
Are you before John Dutton, or are you after?
Oh, interesting. I have no problem with 1823 and 1926. I believe that the precursor shows, I watch them. I think they're fine. Yeah. But for me, John Dutton and the crew, and I am one of the many that I think is very upset that John and Taylor haven't worked
Kevin
it out.
Costner, come on, Kevin Costner, what are you doing?
I get it. And
it's tough.
Yeah. And we mentioned on an earlier show, I'm watching Landman too.
Right.
So another Taylor. So I'm kind of in that sphere. I'm digging it. But I it would be easy to say Game of Thrones would be a great time to just go.
God, I would not want, I love that show, but I would not want to live in that world.
Just to physically watch a dragon fly, or, something I couldn't imagine normally. That would be, and honestly, right when you said it, and this is not going to be good for my age and our discussion.
I can't
I'm really
wait.
sorry. Right when you said it, the first thing that popped in my mind was Downton Abbey.
Oh, Downton Abbey would be really good.
It did.
Okay, yeah.
It did. Because I was like, it would be so interesting to see the upstairs downstairs dynamic. Shout out to another show, right? Upstairs downstairs dynamic of watching them do what they do, and the downstairs being a little catty or led, and then I don't know. I think that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, I could totally see that. That's a great pick. I forgot about that show.
Yeah, but if I think about what I rush home to see, right, what I have to watch, right,
that you want to be in that
absorbed
world.
in it, right? Yellowstone. I go to the rodeos here regularly. The wildest, richest rodeo in the West is literally almost walking distance from my house, so I can go to that. And they do the shout outs to Yellowstone for the last several years, and I love it. It would be fun to be in that environment and check it out.
Yeah, just make sure you're on Beth's good side.
Exactly. And I'm wearing cowboy boots today. So
Oh my gosh, look at you.
yeah,
Living your dreams.
I tend to be a little westerny anyway. So
Okay.
I think I'd fit in a little better there. My cowboy boots would not look good in Game of Thrones. I would.
So true.
Yeah. How about you? Where are you going? What are you stepping into?
Every time we have a question like this, it just shows how different we are because
no.
my first thought is not
no.
even a show that I've watched religiously, but I would go to like Gilmore Girls. Like, I just want a cozy little town. You know, I just want to go to the diner and get my coffee. Like, it's a week. Like, I just want to be like with some friendly people in the neighborhood.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I want to drop someone off at the train station and you want to curl up next to the fire and tea.
Just read a book, just a sleepy little town.
Tea with the girls.
I was thinking Friends, but I was like, I don't want to be in New York City. I love Friends for like the apartments across the hall from each other.
Oh my God.
I don't want to be in New York City. I just want to be in a small little sleepy town.
Oh my God.
You would run into my wife and both of my daughters, Sarah.
You think that's where they would be too, Frank?
Oh, absolutely.
At the Friends environment reunion. All right. Well, that's good. Good to know, I think.
I love that. Well, I love this. Listen, our guest is piping in. Shall we introduce him?
I don't think we have a choice. I am excited today that once again the elder testosterone is in the room.
What a weird way to say it.
So we can.
I've never been introduced that way before.
Right. Well, we like to break barriers here, Frank. So I have a little backup again. Sarah can't pick on me as hard because Frank and I are of a certain age. We share some gray hairs. I'm just saying.
I don't believe it.
Although Sarah thought Frank was closer to her age earlier, and I
still don't know that's not true. I think
There's
you guys
a lot
are
of-
He was just
joking
wooing
with
it,
me.
Bill.
that's a lot of woo, Frank. It's a lot. I am glad as a coach you saw right through that woo. That was an immature use of woo right there. So
Please,
say
you
that.
guys love it. Okay, immature or not, you fall for it every time, you suckers.
actually, we do. I do. I fall for Sarah every time we're on. So, Frank, I am so excited to have you here today. Frank is a fellow strengths coach, an enthusiast. Can we call Frank an arsonist as a watcher listener of our podcast?
Yeah, that's what we call our fans now, Frank. Arsonist,
Okay.
get it, Strengths on Fire.
It's
I think
coming
we
up.
can. He watches the YouTube.
Yes. He's one of our 12 to 15 watchers rather than listeners. So I have worked with Frank now. We've known each other a couple of years, but I've worked with him over the last year on sharpening both of our coaching skills, right? We aim at each other and figure out how we can make each other better and make sure that we're working together and hitting on areas that we wouldn't normally think about. So Frank and I have spent a lot of time catching up and talking on the backside. And so I was super excited when I was like, hey, I need a coach. I think Frank is the perfect ask. So today, ladies and gentlemen, Frank Eastham.
Thank you all very much for inviting me to be here. Positivity is one of my top 5 strengths. And so I have this kind of quirky thing I do where whatever day it is, I'm like, happy Friday, right, to everybody. So people now around the office, it'll be Tuesday and they'll be like, happy Tuesday, Frank, because they just know, they try to beat me to the punch now. So happy Friday, Bill and Sarah.
Ooh, we love Fridays here, Frank, as you probably know, since you've been watching our show.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Friday energy on Strengths on Fire. So happy Friday to you, Frank. We are happy to have you here.
This is Sarah's.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, this is Sarah's day of the week, right? Her mullet Friday day of the week. So this is
I think that was a question on a previous podcast.
It was.
There was a discussion, and I have to say that Sarah and I, our favorite day of the week is the same, Friday.
Yeah.
And I think it was even talked about Friday afternoons, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my favorite time on Friday.
Well, since we're doing a throwback reference, I should tell you I made a comment that nobody's a Monday on that question, right? Like Mondays don't happen. I was corrected. Somebody came to me afterwards and said, hey, the chaos of the weekends don't necessarily bond with me. I want that structure. So Monday is my personality. I step right into it. And I'm not going to I'm not gonna,
love that.
I'm not going to mention the name Renee Dipple, but she stepped right in and said, "You know what? I like that."
She's a really good Monday. You know
I'm just
what?
saying.
If
And
someone has to be a Monday, I'm happy it's Renee because we all need Mondays.
we do. And I said there are no Mondays, and then I got instantly corrected. So that was really good. She actually pulled me aside in the kitchen the other day and said, "You haven't asked me what day of the week my personality is." And I was like, well, you are right. I have not. So let's dive in. And yeah, I got corrected. So
that is so funny. I'm just happy she listens to the podcast. You know, we recently went through Thanksgiving and my sister-in-law said, I ordered pumpkin wine, but it hasn't gotten here yet. And I looked at her and I said, Caitlin, you listen to my podcast.
And is that where she got it? Or was it a oh my.
No, she got it from the podcast. God. But I tell you what, every other person at our Thanksgiving was like, what are you guys talking about? And I was like, none of you are loyal to me. No one here has listened. I can tell because you don't know about the pumpkin podcast or the pumpkin wine. So pumpkin Caitlin wine is now my new favorite relative.
Perfect. I would hit him with, if you don't know, you don't know. And that's it. I just leave it, right? Let Caitlin tell you if she wants, but I don't, I don't care. Frank, let's dive into our guest today, right? We should probably ask Frank about himself a little bit. It feels like the right thing to do. So Frank, welcome to the show. We always like to start with, can you highlight your top 10 for us? Just tell us what those are. Just, you can list them out for us, make sure that we know where that is. And on the back side of that, I know you as working in a church, right? A COO at a church. I know you as a coach working with state entities and private sector and other goods. Can you give us a brief blush of how you got to the coaching side, the faith-based side, and how and what strengths got you there?
Sure. Well, my top 10 are Connectedness, Positivity, Restorative, Developer, and Individualization. Those are my top 5. And following right behind that is Arranger, Includer, Futuristic, Empathy, and Belief. And my strengths journey really began at a very young age, way before I ever took the Strength Finder assessment. And not to get too personal or too deep, but I grew up in poverty. I grew up in at sometimes extreme poverty, and I was in high school, and I was in accelerated classes, but I was lazy. And I convinced my mother, who was actually an 8th grade dropout. She had to take care of her siblings. And I convinced her to sign a piece of paper to get me out of the accelerated classes, because I said, Mom, I'm never going to go to college. We don't have enough money. So could you just sign this? And she did. And around that same time, I joined this club called Future Teachers of America. Not because I thought that I was ever going to become a teacher. There were some young ladies in there that I wanted to spend some time with. And so, And so I joined this club. But one of the activities in the year was to go back to your elementary school and be a teacher for the day. And I studied more for that one day of lessons than I probably had in my entire school career. And I realized in that day the power, the impact and influence that a teacher could have in the lives of their students. And my top strength is connectedness. And that's all it took, that one experience, to connect me to my purpose. And at that moment in time in my high school career, I really turned everything around. And in a year and a half, I got ready for college and then became a teacher. I majored in elementary ed and special education, and wasn't sure which direction I was going to go in. But one piece of one passion that I had, becoming familiar with the special education. Every special education student has an IEP, an individualized education plan. And I thought every student needs an IEP, not just those who have special needs. And so I wanted to be a teacher that had an individualized education plan for every one of my students, which is strength number 5 for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Individualization.
Number 1 for me, number 8 for Sarah, right? We're resonating with you heavily right now, Frank. So yeah.
Yeah. So I just continued to kind of live out my strength themes at every stage in my life. And when I became an administrator, went from being a teacher for 11 years and then an administrator, I was put into a school that it had a lot of problems. And it was there that I leaned into my restorative. And since that time, almost every placement that I've been in professionally has been a place that needed some type of restoration. And so I was in public education for 33 years and then retired and got to move back to purpose. I had moved to a very high position in the school system. I oversaw 76 schools, 52,000 students, and that was an awesome job in so many ways. But it was also very political and very removed from the daily lives of students and even the daily lives of teachers. And so I wanted to flip. I called it the 80-20 flip. 80% of what I did in that position was politics and bureaucracy, and 20% was impact and influence. And I wanted to flip that. And so I had been a part of this very mega church, if you will, a very large multicultural church between Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. I'd been a part of it since the first year that they were in existence, Bridgeway Community Church. And when I retired, the senior pastor said, "Hey, we just opened a second campus and I really need some help organizationally. Would you come on and be my COO?" And so I came on, and I not only got the 80-20 flip, I actually got the 90-10. 90% of what I do, I get to have real impact and influence. And so I honestly think that and what I brought from my work with the school system to the church was my arranger, all of the systems and processes that I had learned in this large school system, I was able to bring to this church of about 8,000 to 10,000 people who connect with us on every Sunday, and really put some things into place to help the church move forward and into the future and be the church that they wanted to be. So that's probably a longer answer than what you wanted, but that's the history of my strengths. Now, I specifically would like to say that, and I can pause now if you want to ask another question, but strengths were a part of both the church world and the school system world. Do you want to hear about that?
Oh, yeah. Do I?
I want to hear about it, but I also just want to say, thank you for sharing your story with us. I am hanging on every word that you're saying. This is such a good story, going from poverty, being sort of disengaged with everything, to having this experience from this club where you just wanted to see some girls, and all of a sudden you're like, teachers can really make an impact, changing your life because you feel that pull and connection. And then this beautiful career you've had in education and now with the church, yes, keep going.
And connectedness and individualization, just listening to them, bouncing off the walls, right? I did this and it led to this, and I did that and that meant this, and the connectedness side. And then I wanted to build curriculum individualized for all, when you hear that, you're like, oh, you got to have individualization high. And I think Frank's giving us a little call back to our very first podcast where I was just trying to meet someone of the opposite sex. So little callback there, Sarah.
Katie Christensen.
Katie hit us with, I wasn't going to go to camp, and some guy walked in and said, "Hey, I'm driving to camp. You need a ride?" And she's like, "Yes, I do." And that started it.
Yeah,
so,
I listened to that one.
Yeah. So, all right, Frank, let's hear it. Build on it.
Well, so my official introduction to strengths, our senior pastor, Dr. Anderson, he also has woo. And he has a lot of strategic themes, and he just connects with everyone. And he's a global ambassador for racial reconciliation and cross-cultural connection. And he was down in D.C. and was at a gathering where Connie Rath, Tom Rath's mother, was, and connected with her. And she started talking about strengths. And he had never heard of strengths. And she said, well, hey, why don't you take this assessment and then we'll talk. And at the time, Bill, I know you've been around long enough, Sarah. I'm not sure about you, that age difference. But that's the time when, in order to get your 34, you had to pay Gallup a lot of money for a coaching session in order for those to be revealed. Well, it was that stage in the Strength Finder world. And so Connie invited Dr. Anderson to come to her office, and she gave him the in-person Strength Finder, the coaching session, the first coaching session with his assessment. And he came back to the church, and I was not on staff yet. I've only been on staff at the church for 6 years, but again, I've been a part of it for nearly 33. And he had every employee, at the time we had about 30 employees or so, gave every employee the assessment. And after he gave the employees the assessment, 30% of our staff was repositioned to other roles because of the themes that they had. In fact, the person that sat in my role, it wasn't the chief operations officer at the time, but it was a director of operations. That person had empathy as, I believe, their number one, but at least in their top 5 themes. And here they were in charge of operations, right? Yeah. And nobody ever likes the operations person, because they're always the person who's giving you the roles and that kind of thing. And so that person was moved into the care ministry, where she was in charge then of making sure that people who had somebody pass away or that kind of thing were cared for. But that's just one example. So then fast forward to the school system, we got a new superintendent who was familiar with CliftonStrengths, and she wanted to bring it to the school system. Well, she just happened to be, we at the time, we went around to different places for our principal meetings, and I hosted one here at the church because it was a nice big facility, and she happened to see our strengths. Every employee has their strengths, and I don't know if I can disrupt the picture, but if you say yes, I'll do it. But right in front of me is my strengths wall, which is the picture, title, and top 5 themes of every employee in our church. And outside their door, they have that same plaque with that same information. And when she saw that, she's like, Frank, your church is a strengths-based organization? And I said, yes. And she said, I want to do this in the school system. And so she brought strengths to the school system from the Board of Education down to 5th grade. Wow. Every employee received a strengths assessment and then coaching, and we embedded it in all of the work that we did. It was absolutely powerful. And the one tidbit that I'll say that was most compelling for me was that schools often look at what's wrong with kids. That's our whole approach. We operate from a deficit perspective. Let's assess you and see what you don't know. Let's assess you and see what you don't do well. And then let's try to fix that. Well, the strengths work that we did changed that. We took on Carol Dweck's growth mindset, and we used strengths to then help students figure out, hey, this is what I do well, right? Yeah. And so and turn around some of the negatives. So the talkative kid was no longer referred to as talkative, but somebody with dominant communication, right? And we helped that student to be able to leverage that. So those were 2 really impactful ways that strengths were a part of my life.
Wow, I love hearing this story. The way that the church was incorporating it, then the school system. I just think my son is in 1st grade, and I think, how cool would it be if his teacher and everybody had strengths awareness? And like you said, it's so funny because I say all the time, just what you said, Frank, about how we operate in a deficit mindset and we always look at what's wrong with people. And so I say that, I know that's true, but when I heard you say it, I was like, yeah, it's just so fun. Like, even though we're saying it, to hear someone say it, I'm like, that is so impactful to hear it. So just incredible work.
Yeah. Yeah. So good to hear it, to hear how it comes. How often are we, all three of us as Gallup coaches, are working with teams and we get that question, well, can we hire based on this? And the answer is no, right? This is not a hiring tool. However, once we have them assessed and once we've coached them and we know that they're maturely using, this portion and this is where we go, you hit it right on the head, Frank, with, well, we move some people around. Let's put them in charge of things that fuel them rather than just bring them down all day. And with that, we see retention going way up. We see engagement going way up. We no longer have to bring in employees and lose the money on training. And it's such a powerful selling point around the Gallup side of what we do that it's great to hear it from you and hear how it worked and played out, that you noticed it even just coming onto it, just starting that. So yeah, really powerful. So
huge kudos.
Yeah, very much so. So I also know you as a guy that I believe you just came back from Ghana. Is that correct? Kenya. And can you touch on that a little bit? Like, I know your strengths and where that feeds. While you were in Kenya, you were doing work with children. I've seen some of those photos. How does that work for you? What are you doing while you're in Kenya, and what strengths are leading to that?
Well, so I really have three focus areas since I've been going to Kenya since 2004, and it began with a pastor there who read a book from our senior pastor, Dr. Anderson, and the book was called Letters Across the Divide, and it was about racial reconciliation. And he was very interested in that topic, and he connected with Dr. Anderson and said, hey, if you're ever in Africa, I'd love for you to come and meet people in my village. I really have a passion for this. And Dr. Anderson was a little bit confused. He didn't have a lot of history understanding the culture in Kenya. And he said, like, what do you mean? How can this be? And the pastor explained that we have tribalism. We have about 50 tribes or so, and those tribes conflict with one another. So while we don't have different races here, we're all black, but we have different tribes. And so and this pastor's passion was, let's start a school and let's help people from different colors, classes, and cultures come together and build relationships with one another. The parents come together, and that's how we can help live out this value of tribal reconciliation. So the three areas that I focus on are education and tribal reconciliation and leadership development. And so this past trip, my focus was mostly on tribal reconciliation with some leadership development. And we had a conference in a city that was between Nairobi and this very rural village where I went. And it really is about working with the community leaders and the faith leaders there to really connect what they do to a higher purpose, right?
Right.
And I won't get religious, but in our book, the Bible that we use for our faith, cross-cultural connection is all through the Bible. And so it isn't some left-wing, social justice movement, which there's nothing wrong with that, but really helping these faith leaders realize that this work has a higher purpose. And so really leaning into connectedness, leaning into restoration, and even helping them develop the skills that they need in order to practice. The book that my pastor wrote was called Gracism, The Art of Inclusion, and there are 8 principles of that people can live out in order to help people come together and develop cross-cultural connection with one another. So that's what I've done in Kenya. I've also done a lot of work in Mexico with Youth with a Mission, and helping those missionaries, those young adult missionaries, connect what they do with strengths. So that organization now is a strength-based organization, and we have embedded faith and Bible verses into the work that they're doing as missionaries. I know that you are probably familiar with Living Your Strengths, but this was a book that was written that helps faith leaders embed strengths in the work that they're doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, to hearing you have 6 relationship building themes in your top 10,
Yes.
and to hear those just come out so strong. I mean, you've pointed a lot of them out, but the connectedness, you're like oozing positivity in everything you say, and the developer, individualization, the includer, the empathy. I mean, it's just so cool to see how you just like really, you can tell you feel it. Like you're not just doing this work. You can tell you believe it. It's a passion of yours, and how cool that you get to do work that's in such alignment with that you're able then to use that to teach others to do it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And in addition to the job here at the church, I have the freedom, as Bill knows, to be a coach and work with other organizations, governmental organizations, nonprofits, and just to be able to take what I do and where I've seen it work so well into other organizations with real life examples, I think is very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You've got this one strategic thinking theme, futuristic, in your top 10. Tell me a little bit about your futuristic. How's that influence you through your work?
It probably pairs with restorative. And I look in multiple organizations that I have, schools and other organizations that I've worked in. I often, in addition to, well, let me say it this way. I'm a visionary leader, so I'm always looking at the way things could be. I love to go into organizations and help them develop their vision, mission, and value statements, and then use those to propel them forward. But one of the things that I learned from a leader a number of years ago is before people will move toward something, regardless of how shiny and attractive that place may be, you first have to convince them that where they are right now is broken and it's not acceptable. And only then will they move toward futuristic. So I was leaning into, from a leadership perspective, really focusing on the futuristic and helping organizations realize, hey, you can get there from where you are. We can get you there. The positivity, of course, you can hear come through too. But really painting a picture for organizations about here's what you could be.
Wow.
But then saying, but where we are right now is not good. And then using my developer and a range of other themes to help organizations get to that better place. Because everybody's always looking. They always want to be in a better place, right? Yeah. And just helping them be able to see that and see that they can actually get there.
And I bet your restorative helps with that, because restorative often can see opportunity and or problems, depending on how what lens you look through, right? To fix. So you're probably in a really unique position to have that restorative, being able to see, oh, here's what I'm seeing could be adjusted, set the tone, and then the futuristic to say, and here's where we could go. And I just love that, like, reframe of, to get people to go somewhere, you have to show them where they're at isn't where they want to be.
Right. And show and help them understand why it's not a good place. Right. When my first job as a principal, I was in a school that was a minority-majority school. I was a minority in that school. But at the first graduation, I was astounded that this lineup of student speakers did not represent the face of the school. And I was sad. And so I came back to the leadership of the school and I said, this can't continue. Yeah. We can't allow this to happen again. But they honestly couldn't see a different way. They said, well, Frank, we put out promotions to have students sign up and try out and write speeches, and none of the minority students, well, they don't step up. They don't write. They don't apply to be a speaker. And I said, well, that's our role as leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me that we don't have any students of color who speak well and have a compelling message to share at graduation? And they're like, no, but they won't come. And I said, well, then that's our job. We need to go find them.
Yeah.
And throughout that next year, my second year, the student leaders as well as the faculty leaders, they began to explore and look for those potential speakers. And at the end of the second year at graduation, it was amazing. We had a lineup of student speakers that demonstrated the diversity, all of the diversity that we had. Just from the beginning, the welcome was in English and in Spanish, and then it just continued. And I was crying on stage, and the deputy superintendent leaned over, and she's like, Frank, it's going to be okay. And I'm like, oh, it's better than okay. It's awesome. Can you look at this? This is wonderful. And since then, but honestly, the school didn't see that as a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And just helping them see that, no, we can get there. We can do this. And since that time, this school has such dynamic, engaging graduations that really do represent the uniqueness of that particular school.
Wow. So good. And I'm just going to tee this up for you, Frank, because as I listen to that, and I've had the joy of coaching with you and coaching you a bit over the last year, I in a previous employment for me when I was an embedded coach, my supervisor had said, hey, I love what you're doing. This is great. This is doing this. And how would I get to know you better? And I listened to Developer on a podcast or on a Gallup based podcast, and every word in it, I think I pulled over and was a little weepy. It's just, oh, that's so me. That's exactly what I do, because it's number 2 for me. Mm-hmm. And so I had to point out individualization, number 1, developer 2 for you, developers 4, individualization 5.
Right.
For me, they feed off of each other quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I would point out, I sent that to my boss and said, if you want to know me, listen to this. Just listen to this. And I get that a lot about, hey, it's not my number 1, right? It's further down. But it was the one that just motivated me to hit that. So as far as a developer individualization, that's a little down for you. Can you touch on developer for a moment? Because everything I'm hearing from you, going to Kenya, working with students, pulling out inner city students and having them come on stage and talk about the things that mean the most to them, and then being emotional about it. I cry when I say goodbye to about half of the groups I work with. I get that. I'm in that moment where I'm like, I can't thank you all for being honest. And then I get a little, and then I resonate that with you, because as a developer, I love that. So touch on that for a moment.
Developer is probably one of my favorite themes. And I went to a Stephen Covey conference probably 30 years ago, maybe more. And it was a very expensive conference. I was sent there by my school system by accident. Somebody canceled out, and I was like 22 years old. And they said, hey, Frank, do you want to go to this conference? And I'm like, well, I have nothing else to do, right? So I went to this conference, and at one of the workshops was writing a mission statement. And we've all been in those workshops where we have to write a mission statement. And usually it was not something that I spent a lot of time or thought about doing. But I thought, my school systems paid $5,000 for me to come to this conference. And that was a lot of money in 1986, 87.
Absolutely.
And I thought, you know what, I'm going to really give this some thought and really create a personal mission statement. And that mission statement is to build relationships with people so that I have permission to help them be the best at whatever they do. That's my personal mission statement. And that mission statement is all about developer, right?
Yeah.
It's all about helping people become the best version of themselves at whatever it is. So whether it's a missionary, whether it's a teacher, whether it's an administrator, whether it's a parent, whether it's a husband, right? But I've worked in all of those scenarios with strengths to help people be the best at what they can be. And just watching them grow and develop, it just feeds my soul.
Right.
And so developer, and a funny story, it's funny now, but I was interviewing for a promotion in the school system, where the first position where I would be overseeing all of the principals and assistant principals. And the interview was kind of interesting because had been in the school system for a long time, and this new superintendent, she referred to us as legacy staff. And she didn't have great affection for legacy staff. She wanted to come in and she wanted a new brand for the school system. And so it was almost this tension that was in the interview. And I knew that she knew about strengths. She hadn't yet brought them to the school system, I don't think, but I knew that she knew about them. And in the interview, I said to the superintendent, I said, listen, you know my top 5 strengths. If I can't use these top 5 strengths in this position, then please don't hire me, because this position is so important. If you put me in a room and make me discuss with a group of people for hours about whether we should use the word protocol or procedure in some policy, I'm going to become homicidal or suicidal, and neither one is good for the organization, But I really want to use developer was one that I really wanted to lift up and to be able to help these administrators in the work that they do.
Yeah, so good. I will tell you that company, when I was embedded, I didn't start embedded with them. They ended up sending me to get certified so that I could work with them. And I was very clear with my supervisor at the time. I said, if I can't do this work with our 60, 70 people, I'm gone. I don't want to not. And right. Eventually I had other responsibilities and duties, and they were big. Eventually I was asked to move away from the coaching side quite a bit. And inevitably that was a big part of why I moved away. I said, I don't want to do this anymore, because exactly as you're pointing out, I want to develop people. I want to make sure that's better. And the other job responsibility duties were very bland compared to that. It almost felt like I was sitting in a room discussing, the procedure of X, to ad nauseum, so that compliance could get it in a book, and I just can't do that. So I so resonate with your story, Frank, and feeling that developer in me where if I can work with people and I can get them helped and lifted, and I can physically see it or hear it in their voice, that's when I get, like you, I get misty eyed on stage. Yeah. I get, and working with a group, I get a little teary, because I'm like, you've been honest. I've heard you talk about great things today, where you want to go. Let's get you there. Let's start. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Frank, I just love your strengths are so evident in what you do, and your personal mission statement. It's all so compelling, but I got to know, when do your strengths get you into a dumpster fire?
Here it is, Frank. Dumpster fire time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have some themes that have been very good to me, but they've also been problematic. And we just talked about one. Let's talk about developer.
Okay.
Right? I always believe that there's one more thing I can do to help somebody be better. And I will never forget, I was in the new position overseeing principals, and I had a gentleman on my team, and this person was not performing well. And I kept trying things. And my coach, my strengths coach, who was a retired superintendent from Kansas City, finally one day she's like, Frank, stop it. You need to hold this person accountable for their behavior, because holding them accountable will develop them.
Yeah.
Every part of developer isn't about doing nice things, kumbaya moments with the people that you're coaching. Sometimes developer is about holding people accountable. And so she gave me, she made me rehearse how I was going to approach this disciplinary conference.
Smart.
And I started out with, you've made a lot of improvements, and she's like, shut up. No, the first thing you need to say is this behavior that he exhibited, which was unacceptable, period. You start there. And then you say, here is the expected behavior, and here's what's going to happen if you don't do that. And be quiet. Then put it on this person to be able to communicate about the why, that kind of thing. But don't talk so much. Allow that person to feel the power of silence, right? And so developers is one that has definitely been a dumpster fire. Another one is positivity. And this one, I've only realized, honestly, in the past year and a half or so, how it is a dumpster fire for me sometimes. I have this natural belief that people are going to do what they say they are going to do. It's like, of course they're going to do it. Of course I don't have to worry about that. Of course I don't need to micromanage. And that gets me into trouble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just this, of course they will. Yes, they've got this, right? No, unfortunately, a lot of times people don't do what they say they're going to do. And so it does require some of my other themes to lift up. So those are two, I think. And the last one's kind of funny, but Bill, I think you'll appreciate this one. So I was in charge of a faculty, and I brought snacks to the faculty meeting every month. And I try to eat healthier, these days. And so I would bring things that were on the healthier side. And in one of the evaluations for the faculty meeting, a person wrote, "Hey, where's the good stuff? Why don't we have donuts anymore? And what about the pastries?" Right? And at the next faculty meeting, I brought Dunkin' Donuts and some pastries and things like that. Well, the evaluation that month, 30 people crucified me for the garbage that I brought to the faculty meeting, right? And what I realized is my individualization will sometimes allow me or encourage me to take one person's feedback and apply it to the group when that's just one person. Yeah. And that old adage, you can't please everybody. And if you try, you please no one, right? Yeah. And that's how individualization sometimes gets into the dumpster with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and first of all, you are a supreme storyteller. Like, Bill and I don't even have to be here. You are just telling engaging stories. I'm like on every word. I also love you have such clarity about the dumpster fires. And I think in each of these, they're impacted by that empathy. Like, I just feel like you really care about people. So when you were talking about the developer, I feel like that's because you have that empathy, right? That positivity. Yeah. It's like the empathy for people, the individualization. And you do sit with a woo at 11. So
that's right.
That one person saying they wanted pastries and you were like, bring in the donuts. I feel like your woo might have said, oh no. And then I just would love to have seen your reaction when 30 people the next time were like, what is this? We don't want donuts. Bring back the fruit. I could just imagine your face being like, oh no.
Yeah. Exactly.
Devastated.
It's like,
devastated.
Holy crap.
Yeah. What did I do wrong? And by the way, I want to point out, when you said positivity, I'm going to talk about how that gets me in a dumpster fire. The first thing Sarah did was she gave us the fish lips. It was really good. Yeah, I got the fish lips. And I was so excited to hear how the positivity was going to play out. And then the smile started. You're there. But, we've mentioned this before. I often am told by my team, you can't care more than they do from the developer side, right? And I didn't do the homework, and now I'm not doing oh no, I didn't do that, but hey, maybe we'll just do this. And I'm like, no, they're ready. We can get them there. Because positivity developer, I think everyone gets that next chance with me. And so frequently my staff has to rein that in for the better. Right. Sometimes I got to let clients go and just be, this isn't a good fit because I'm like you. Hey, we talked about it. You're going to be there. You're going to do it. Let's do it. And And when that doesn't happen, sometimes even I take it a little harder than I need to. Like, hey, how did I let you down? And my staff's like, whoa. They had like 8 emails telling them we're ready to go. So I hear you. That's a bit of my dumpster fire too, is that developer and how I get in that. So, this is, Sarah, this is how Frank and I met years ago, was we knew we resonated so much with you. And so many of our top 10 are very similar.
Common,
yeah. I absolutely still want to point out, I've always called Sarah the best hair in coaching, but Frank, best dressed. I mean, come on. All the times I've seen Frank over the years, he is a sharp dressed man. Today on a podcast, no exception. Very sharp today.
I care about those 15
right?
people.
Like
those 15 people mean a lot to me.
And we have, I think we joked earlier, we have 15 people that watch on YouTube. So you have impressed every single one of them, Frank, today. That is a good look. So, we're going to jump into a fun question. You ready? You want the fun question? Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. You, Frank, have just won the lottery. Do you play the lottery, Frank? Is there a chance you would have won the lottery?
Very seldom, but every once in a while when it gets up there, I'll slip into a store and buy it.
That positivity says, might as well throw my name in the hat.
So this question, we're right on the mark then. Frank, that every so often you just hit it. You just won it. But you can only spend the money using your top 10 strengths. What's your first move? What do you do first?
So, interesting question. And this is going to sound so dorky.
I love it.
I just apologize up front?
Me. Hit us with the dorkiness. We're ready.
I think I already did it. I retired. And it gave me the freedom to do the things that I love to do. Yeah. And while Friday is my favorite day, Monday is also a favorite day. Monday, the church is closed. And so it's a heavy coaching day for me. It's a heavy leadership development day for me. I get to, from the beginning of the day until the end of the day, do what I love, which is to focus on leadership development, to focus on strengths. And retirement allowed me to be able to do that, along with my boss here at the church gave me the freedom to do this. And so winning the lottery, I think the first thing that I would do is make sure that I had the opportunity to do what I do best, to do what I love, to do what fills my passion. And so I would use all of my strength themes in my top 10 to live that out. So I guess the only thing I would change is let me go to 100% impact and influence. So even getting rid of like that 10%, even that I have now, let me hire somebody else.
Hire it out.
Yeah, contract out all of the human resources. People are messy things. All of the evaluation. I don't want to do any of that.
And George just smiled listening to this podcast. So, Ann is my assistant, one of the coaches here at BDSC, but we have also shared her with Frank as his assistant.
Thank goodness.
Right? So how great is it when she hears this, she'll be like, yes, keep sending it. I need to get in front of that and get you coaching and making sure your 100% is what you're living up to.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Ann, but one of the things that I've been trying to practice this year is the art of gratitude, right? And we're just coming off of Thanksgiving, but I try every morning to write 4 things that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
And it just really sets my day up much better. Sometimes I'm thankful for the things that happened the day before. Sometimes it's the things that are coming up for that day. And these are not like always deep things. Like the other morning, I love fires. I have 2 fireplaces in my house, and I love fires. And I just was grateful that I could build a fire, But one of the things, Bill, one morning as I'm doing my quiet time reflecting, I thought, I am so grateful for Ann because she does those things that would take me hours to do. Yep.
Yeah.
but B, that I just hate doing.
Yeah.
And I texted her and told her, hey, I just want to let you know I'm so grateful for you. So, yeah, I would hire Ann maybe full-time, take her away from you, Bill, with the lottery money.
Oh, no.
And,
Oh, no.
or maybe just pay her to do your stuff and my stuff.
Oh, I love that. What a
There you go.
giver.
Sarah, I'll let you in since it's lottery.
Yeah,
right?
thanks,
Yeah.
sir. There's lots of stuff I'm really bad at that someone else should do.
I totally love it. Actually, just pay me to not coach. I think that would solve it. Then you get Ann full time.
You can hang out on the golf course and rodeo.
I gotta, perfect.
Whatever. You
Golf
do
course,
this
rodeo.
because you want to. Don't act like it. But how cool
Totally
is
true.
it, Frank, that we're like, you win the lottery, you have all the money in the world, and you're basically like, I would just keep my life exactly the same.
Yeah, I know that sounds like unbelievable and silly, but the material things that I would do because of, I think, individualization. You mentioned about not wanting to live in the city, and I agree with that. But I would love to have a condo in the city, right?
Oh, yeah.
That I could go visit and have that city life for a weekend or for a week, and have a place by a lake, have a place by the ocean. Yeah.
But you probably would want to bring people to them. I imagine you wouldn't be going alone. You'd be like, oh, you should come to the beach with us for the holiday. Or we're going up to the city to see a show. You should come along.
No, absolutely. I drive my wife crazy sometimes because I love to be around people. She has relator. She wants to be around one person. And I'll be like, hey, come on over, and she'll be like, oh my goodness, Yeah, I would invite tons. I would invite tons of people. In fact, the question that you asked, Sarah, at the beginning about what TV station or movie or TV show or movie, mine would be Cheers.
Oh,
yeah,
Cheers! Where everyone knows your name.
That community where people just get together and enjoy being with one another.
I blew it.
Gosh.
I blew it because I could get a bourbon at Cheers, right?
Exactly.
And just. I think Frank and I shared a bourbon at the last Charlotte Blair event, and sat down and we came up with some ideas around coaching. So
yes,
I'd say
nice comfortable chairs.
Yeah, we might be bourbon fueled at some point, Frank, which is good. It got the creativity flowing. So
there you go.
I would love to do this podcast on bourbon. I mean, I particularly don't like bourbon, but I'll take my poison of choice, and we could just get on here and riff on strengths, get a little loosey-goosey.
Exactly.
Things might get a little weird, but I guarantee more people would watch the video.
Absolutely.
Sarah, hopefully you're coming to Charlotte Blair's big event in Denver.
Yes,
so
we have our tickets.
Maybe we'll get an opportunity to have some poison together.
We can do that, yeah.
I love it. We're doing it.
And we had Charlotte Blair on. She was a couple of weeks ago, and because of the time change while she was in Australia, we thought we would have wine. But because Charlotte couldn't have wine, we probably stepped away from that. But
that was very nice.
Sarah and I were looking at each other like it's nighttime here. What are we doing? How do we not have a?
I should have had wine, but strengths after dark.
Yeah,
we'll do a Strengths After Dark series.
Yeah,
we're Charlotte tried to convince us to do a live show at the event, so I'm thinking Frank will have you as a drive-by guest on it, and Charlotte will be there for part of it. I think this is going to turn into and we're going to do it at the karaoke night that always happens at the. No, I don't.
You know what's so funny is I feel like my woo would come out stronger than ever because I pretty much play it down low at those events because I got to read the room because my woo is I want people to like me first, so I don't want to come off too strong. But if you say, Sarah, you're now podcast hosting at this event, people are going to be like, where did this loud lady come from? Jiminy Christmas. In the last two events, she just sat in the corner, and here she is up front saying, hey, you, where'd you get your shoes?
Yeah. What just happened over there in the corner? Somebody's yelling. I don't know who that is. And And inevitably, I'm attracted to it. I need to go see what that is, right?
Right.
Somebody's wooing it up over there. So, yeah, I get to live with Sarah's woo frequently, all the time. So I get to bask in it. I'll know I can, if we get set up, we're having you as a fly-by guest on that live show.
Yeah,
So.
because we need Frank to tell his stories. Frank, you
I'm all
just
in.
come with such deep strengths awareness, such a good heart. The work you do is so meaningful for the world. I mean, just no surprise, connectedness is number one for you. And the way that you're living your strengths so authentically to you, and then being able to give and share to so many people in your world with both the church and all the coaching you do and the educators that you've influenced in your life. I mean, it really is cool and inspiring. So I guess I just want to be Frank when I grow up.
Oh.
You can be frank with me, sir.
Yay.
Oh, just wonderful. Once again, I've been kicked off the podcast. There's two new hosts. I won't be here next week. So, Frank, thank you so much for joining us today. We have loved having it. I've loved being able to work with you for quite some time now. We always love running into each other at the events that we go to and the summit, as well as Charlotte's thing. And I was so excited when I thought, hey, why aren't we doing this with Frank? And we threw the invite. You were, I'm all in. Let's do this. So really meant a lot to me that we've shared a lot together and we can continue sharing in this way. So thank you very much for being on here today.
Absolutely. And just thank you, Bill, for building into me and investing in me in my coaching. I remember when we had that conversation and I shared with you that, when I grow up, I want to be like you, just because you have a lot to offer. And I love that. And Sarah, it's been great getting to know you through the podcast that I've watched and now being live with you. This has been wonderful.
This is great. Yeah. I absolutely love
what a joy.
it.
Look at us all. Just the big love fest.
Let's just
now,
love.
gentlemen, don't cry, okay?
Okay.
It's the honesty is everywhere. So, all right, from Yellowstone to bourbon fueled to Sarah's best hair to best dressed Frank. Thank you all. Thank you. We have loved doing this today. And Frank, again, thanks for being here. We will talk again soon. Thank you for joining us on Strengths on Fire. If today's conversation sparked something in you, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. We're here bringing you fresh insights to fuel your growth and ignite your potential. Remember, your strengths are powerful, so let's keep the fire burning.
And if you're looking to transform your organization through strengths-based strategies and coaching, reach out to Sarah Collins, founder of Collins Collective, or Bill Dipple, founder of Bill Dipple Strengths Coaching. Connect with Sarah at wearecollinsco.com, follow her on Instagram at SarahCoachCollins, or email her at sarah@wearecollinsco.com, SARAH. You can reach Bill at BillDipple.com, Bill, DIPPEL.com, or on Instagram at BillDippleCoach, or email him at bill@BillDipple.com.
Please note the opinions, views, and interpretations of CliftonStrengths expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and the guests. They have not been approved, sanctioned, or endorsed by Gallup in any way.
Until next time, keep your strengths on fire and let's light up what's possible together. Bye, Bill.
Bye, Sarah.